got a little bit of room. 3-on-3 going in. He chips it in behind Gilmore. Backhand. Put up and in! Austin Cangelosi with the game winner in overtime. What a play!
In the game, Seedham will carry the puck behind his net and wait out the buzzer. They're on their feet here at the Covelli Center. And ladies and gentlemen, the Youngstown Phantoms are the 2018 Eastern Conference champions. They're going to the Clark Cup final.
Welcome to the inaugural episode of Hockey People Over the Computer Getting Coffee, brought to you by Dunkin. I'm voice of the Phantoms Matt Lipcsak, and I'm joined by Phantoms head coach and general manager Brad Patterson, coming to us from Youngstown. I am in my house in North Canton, so we're about 60 miles apart, but we are here to talk some hockey. Brad, how are you?
Good. It's good to be talking to you. I'm glad I'm the inaugural breaking in here for this first one, but excited to talk hockey for sure.
We're going to set the bar high here. I've been talking to some Phantoms alumni and trying to get some interviews lined up. So you and I were going to set the bar high, though, for them, all right?
Yeah, well, I hope so. We'll see.
All right. So, Brad, it's been about 10 days almost exactly now since the USHL Phase I and Phase II drafts. Tonight we're going to start by talking about Phase II. First, it was your first draft as the general manager. Now, obviously, as the head coach, just wrapped up your fourth season, albeit a fourth short season. There we go. I'll get it right eventually. But, what was the difference now being the man in charge for the draft? Obviously, you've been in the draft room, you've had a voice, but now you're the GM and the head coach. So tell us what that was like.
Yeah, it was definitely different. That being said, I've been extremely fortunate over the years to work with some great guys who were in that role. You go back over the past 4 or 5 years, Jason Kohler did a tremendous job here. Great hockey mind, and to be able to see, the process that he went through and learn from it, definitely drew some things out of that. And then, prior to that with Curtis Carr, Anthony Noreen, same idea. The thing that was a huge positive or something that I bring up with everyone, Jeff Potter did a tremendous job as far as on the creating lists, getting out on the road, formulating, the different must-see guys for the rest of our staff to do. And, he really led that charge and did a tremendous job with it. And, those weeks leading up to the draft, although we weren't able to play hockey, it really gave us a chance to hone in through that first time kind of in that role together doing it. And I think, I hope to say in a year that it paid dividends, but it sure does feel like that now.
Well, I mean, talk about getting out on the road. Your first pick in Phase II played for the Fairbanks Ice Dogs out in Alaska in the NAHL. How difficult was it to actually get to see him live?
Well, live, Jeff got a couple of viewings in here this year. And then through most of my viewings on just about everybody, unless you're regional or through video. But he's a guy early on that we identified that, we really liked his 200-foot game, his ability to separate offensively, whether it be through physicality or through speed or power. And he's good in all areas, can play multiple positions, did some good, obviously, background checks, and that's something you see a lot of the hockey player, but you want to make sure that everything else checks out. And he's exactly the type of person, the type of player that we want to have in this program. I think he's going to be a tremendous player for us moving forward. The fans should be excited to see him.
And of course, we are talking about Adam Eisele, the forward that played for the Fairbanks Ice Dogs in the NAHL this past season. He's from Lake Elmo, Minnesota. And I believe he scored, 43 points in 51 NAHL games this year, 18 goals?
Well, you probably have that stat in front of you. I don't, but yes.
Right. I don't, but actually that's all from memory.
As I said, an offensive weapon, but also has the ability to play in multiple different roles. And that's, what drew us to him originally. And then you just see his detail in his game throughout the 200-foot surface is a huge thing for us, and I'm very excited to bring him aboard here moving forward.
All right, moving on to pick number 2, and we're going to just cover the first few picks here. We're not going to make you talk about all. I think it was 21 players drafted in the Phase II draft. Brad, I'm going to interject with a question before we talk about Will Hillman. Phase 1, Phase 2. Can you explain the difference to our fans who might not be, in the know?
Sure. Yeah, I guess Phase 1, who we'll talk about here in the near future, or maybe we'll get Jeff on to talk. Phase 1 is predominantly, it's referred to as your futures draft. This year it's 2004 birth year players. Can be from all over the world, which you'll see, and I'm sure we'll talk about in our segment for Phase 1. But as you lead into Phase 2, which the draft we're talking about right now, any birth year that is junior hockey eligible. So you're looking at 2004 as the young class, all the way to a 2000 birth year, as those guys would be turning 20 or possibly there in the near future. And those are the guys that more often than not are filling your immediate needs. And your Phase 1 draft are guys that, and I feel like we did a good job of that. I think there's some guys that are, if they're not ready, they're going to be very, very soon. And I think there's some guys pushing the envelope for that right now. Whereas Phase 2, you're looking for a little bit more of, come in, have junior experience, which, I think is the ongoing theme through our first few picks here in the draft.
So, and for starters, 2004 was the year I graduated high school. So I guess I'm officially old now, Brad. I'm not going to comment about you. I'm going to try to be polite in that respect. Again, you are watching the inaugural episode of Hockey People Over the Computer Getting Coffee, brought to you by Dunkin. All right, Phantoms Phase 2 Round 2 pick was Will Hillman, who led the Bismarck Bobcats of the NAHL in scoring, had 10 power play goals this year, and I believe he also had 43 points. What can you tell us about Will?
Yeah, another guy, junior experienced. He's been through the battles, been tested before, coming out of a great program, same program we got Matt Barry out of a couple of years ago. So we know what, the pedigree that he's coming from. Great program there, like I said. He skates extremely well. Another guy that can move in different places in your lineup. Obviously has the scoring ability and the offensive upside, but also has the jam and the compete level that has to go alongside that to be a Phantom. And we pride ourselves on that. Then away from the rink, no different than what we talked about with Adam. You want top-notch character guys coming in, and they're both that. And just so happens that, I make the original phone call right afterwards, and we knew this going in, but they had already communicated within a few minutes after our second pick there with Will. Both of them are going to be playing at the University of Minnesota Mankato here in the near future. So those guys will be teammates for years and years to come. So another guy we're excited to add to the lineup, a left shot, which, we identified earlier that we wanted to make sure that we got a piece there. And like I said, a guy that can play in multiple different positions as well as bring offensive upside.
All right, so that's Will Hillman, who again led the Bismarck Bobcats in scoring in the abbreviated 2019-2020 season there for the NAHL. He played for, again, the Bismarck Bobcats of the NAHL. Moving on to round 3, the Phantoms took a goaltender, also from the Fairbanks Ice Dogs, Matt Scholl. What can you tell us about Matt?
Yes, he's extremely athletic goaltender, a guy that we've looked at for a couple of years here. And, you look at his stats. I don't have him in front of me, Matt. I should have done that. You should have.
I think it's a 1.99 goals against average and north of a 0.9 save percentage. I think it might have been 909.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up, it stayed consistent. It was never. It doesn't matter what level he's been at. He's always been a competitor, and he's found the ability or the ways to keep the puck out of the net. He's good with the puck outside of the crease and being able to play it and advance it. And not saying that that's the first thing you look for in a goaltender, but it definitely sticks out. He's very good on his edges. We obviously have a staff here. Shane Clifford, our goalie coach, based out of Pittsburgh, who does a tremendous job. And early on, we went through a list of a few guys that we felt would be pieces to come in and really be good for us. And he was definitely one of them. And Shane, that was through our internal staff when we got that video of Shane, and he was a guy right away that he identified with and said, "Hey, this is your guy." He's battle tested. He's played junior hockey for a great program for 2 years. He's done extremely well. Even before that, going through midget on the West Coast, same idea. And it's an ongoing theme, but the background checks as far as making sure he's the right person and the right player to come into a program that we have here. I think he's going to be a big addition for us.
All right, and I believe that 1.99 goals against average for Matthias, also a top 10 number in the NAHL. So, like you said, Brad, we're getting a good one there in Matthias Scholl with the 3rd round pick in the Phase II Draft. All right, moving on to round 4, we're looking at Cole Birch, who played for the Toronto Patriots of the OJHL, 62 points in 54 games. So, hey, better than a point per game. That's not bad. 108 penalty minutes. Man after your own heart there, Brad.
Well, I know it's a little bit of a broken record, but you want to find guys that can contribute in more than one fashion, and not just at one end of the rink. And while he's got a great offensive skill set, and everyone's going to see that when he gets here, his compete level is there as well. I think he's a guy that maybe was a little bit under the radar as the year went. Dating back to the year before, he had a serious injury where he was out for a while, but came back, and he was. The more we liked him in the video that we had cut just on him, but as we watched more and more, and we were looking at other players in that league, the games were against his team, and he kept outshining. It didn't matter who we were looking at, and we liked him already, and that really sealed the deal for us. And then the great thing about Cole as well is he's got a dual passport. He has the Canadian and the U.S. pass. Not that changes him as a hockey player, but it frees us up to do some other things in other ways. But Cole's going to be a good asset. I think he's similar to some players that we've had here in the past in the facet, maybe in that 5'10" range, extremely mobile, extremely agile with an offensive flair, good on the power play. And I'll let you put the point or do the dissection of what players I'm referring to, and maybe we can get that into put that into a trivia question in the future, Matt. Maybe we could get that.
I mean, off the top of my head, I'm thinking Austin Cangelosi, I'm thinking Sam Annis, I'm thinking Ben Schoen a little bit.
Well, I think you take any of those 3 players and you make the comparison, I think you get what I mean. He's a guy that we expect big things out of, but those expectations are only met because we've seen him do it. He has the experience. He's done it in junior hockey. And like I said, he's a good guy away from the rink and should add to our program in multiple different ways.
Yeah, this past season with Toronto there in the OJHL, 26 goals in 54 games. So that's just shy of a goal every other game. I'll take those kind of output numbers from any of my forwards, Brad. I don't know about you.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, well, Brad, I'm not going to ask you to dive too much more deeply into Phase 2 here, but tell us what you've been up to since the season ended at almost exactly 2 months ago now.
Well, right away it was, you keep the unprecedented word, it keeps coming, and not knowing what was next. I think the hardest thing for us was originally it was a couple days to a week to 2 weeks possibly being off, and we kind of told the guys we'll treat it as an off week, so you're free to go home. And due to the guys that play on the team, there's multiple that live close by, whether it be Detroit, within that 5-6 hour driving radius. And so they took everyone else home with them. So now all of a sudden, 10 days later, it's okay, maybe we're going to start slowing this down. We don't want to be traveling. Well, we had guys from international guys that had left their equipment and left their belongings at houses here, but were spending time in, say, Detroit. So figuring out the logistics as far as getting them back or shipping their stuff to them, and if they were going to go home or how that was all going to work. That was probably the biggest headache for me as far as, health and well-being was the biggest thing. But all while they're not here. And that was hard. And there was a lot, I don't want to say sleepless nights because it wasn't, there wasn't anything bad going on. One of the big things that, we talk about the Phantom family and spelling it with a PH all the time is that's an extended family. And our players that brought guys home back to Detroit, it wasn't a panic. We knew where they were. We knew they were with players on our team's families, and they were very well looked after. And there's a big thank yous that they go up to that. But that being said, that was the first initial wave. And then once we knew things were kind of going to get shut down, it was, okay, now we're going to focus more along, hey, what's going to go on for the draft here. And it really gave us the ability going through it, for the first time, as far as me and Jeff working together, really to hone in on video and get a lot of viewings of the guys that we were very interested in, and kind of formulated a rolling list whether they went up, down, and we're able to base it on multiple views. We also have other people involved in our staff that aren't here on a daily basis, that do a lot of work for us in the hockey player procurement, or a lot of different developmental areas, and to incorporate them a little bit more as we went was huge, and they were a big help. Casey Kessering did a ton for us from out east. I'll bring him up. And then at the same time, not great timing wise, but Nick Prusy took a different job. And Nick, I love Nick. He's like a brother to me. We're going to miss him here.
We'll miss you, Nick.
Yeah. At the same time, it was a really good opportunity for him to take up. So timing wasn't great, but at the end of the day, it's no different. The way I see it, it's you want your people, your teammates with, or whether that's our players, whether that's our coaches, whether that's front office staff, whatever it is, to continue to move up the developmental ladder. And I think Nick was able to do that and achieve that. And, I know he'll be excited to face us, as we will be to face him. But to lose him before the draft was, it wasn't great, but at the same time, he's in a great situation. So I'm very happy for him, and we all should be. And then we get through the draft, and it's more about just communications with players and kind of updates on what's going to go on, getting them camp information, and here we are today. And now I'm talking to you.
Well, yeah, I know I saw Georgi Merkulov on Instagram. He's still in Detroit. He never made it back to Russia. I know Jan Kern did make it back to the Czech Republic, and of course, Jan, I do believe his junior hockey days are done. He'll be moving on to American International to play next season, unless I'm incorrect, and feel free to correct me there, Brad.
No, you're right. And with Georgie, he was one of the guys I was referring to. Everyone's home now, and everyone went home. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Everyone went home. The only guys that are international that are still stateside, Borshov, who went out east, and he played junior hockey prior to coming to Youngstown out there, and is in a very good situation as far as being looked after. It's not like he's on his own waiting to go home. I'm sure they all miss home, but with the circumstances as they are, and those guys being very mature young men, they're doing well here. Borsch is out there, I believe it's with his old host family, and then Georgie went back to Detroit with Aiden Gallagher, our captain from last year, and it was going to be a 3 or 4 day thing, and it turned into a couple weeks thing, and Georgie's still there, and he's training and doing a lot. So we've spoken to the family there, but a big thank you goes out to Aiden and his family. They've been tremendous, bringing Georgie in. But I think I could probably speak for them in saying that he's a pretty easy person to bring in. He wants to learn so much, and I know this isn't a segment about Georgie, but for those that want to hear it, it's pretty interesting. He came over, and he was probably the only person that I've met in hockey circles that really couldn't speak a word, and came on a long road trip with us. By the end of the road trip, he didn't want people translating for him because we had a couple Russian-speaking players, and didn't want to live with them. Everyone loves him. It wasn't that they didn't want, but he didn't want to live with them because he wanted to learn. And it's gotten to a stage now over, what's that, 6-7 months, where you could probably have a podcast and get him on here for coffee on the computer. And
all right,
it would be pretty good. And he's like that in hockey. He's like that away from the rink. He's just a sponge for information. Wants to get better as a hockey player. Wants to get better as an English speaker. And I think he's really taken steps forward doing that. So I'm very proud of him. And it goes back to, he's been in a great setting with whether it was his host family here, or now it's back at Aiden's place with the Gallaghers back in Detroit. I'm very happy. Although he can't get home right now to see his family in Russia, I think he's in a good situation.
Yeah, Brad, it's just so weird to talk about. You said Aiden Gallagher was last year's captain. The Clark Cup final should be, wrapping up this week or next week. And this is just surreal. I know it's been absolutely crazy for me. How has it been for you? Yeah,
it's hard to look at, really, and it seems like it was more than 6 weeks ago or 7 weeks ago that this started. And it's more so hit me over the past probably week or two. Now that the drafts happened, because leading into it there was a lot of work to be done, and I know we weren't in the office really, but you still wake up and it was still like I was going to work. There was a lot of things to be done, and our whole staff did that. And now you look and it's okay. We could potentially still be playing hockey right now. The camp would be right around the corner here a couple weeks, which leads me into the next thing of planning camp. And we'll go instead of a mid-June camp, we're looking at July 28th through August 2nd in Pittsburgh again. So excited to get everybody and all the draft picks we just spoke of, plus everyone else out there, returning players, affiliate list players, and obviously free agents. That's an area that I think we've always done well with. We're not the type of program that just shuts the door because you weren't a draft pick or an affiliate or whatever. And we're excited to see everyone come to Pittsburgh at the end of July.
Yeah, I think going back a few years, I know one of my favorite free agent acquisitions is absolutely John Padula. I mean, I think we even might have used a Phase II draft pick on him, a very late one, to bring John in, and that worked out very well in the Phantoms' favor.
Yeah, no doubt. Memory serves me right. I think John left the USHL, went and played Muskegon, and they left him maybe on, I don't know the exact. I think they left him unprotected at that time.
I think they did.
But yeah, he's you talk about guys you always remember big things. He's a huge playoff performer, and that's the biggest thing that sticks out for me about John. Great player, but even better player when it got to playoffs.
Well, Brad, I think that's going to wrap up the inaugural episode of Hockey People Over the Computer Getting Coffee. I want to thank you and thank Dunkin for helping us out here.
That's right. I feel bad because mine's in the coffee cup.
I got the cold brew cup is what I got.
There you go.
All right. Well, Phantom fans and Phantom family, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm voice of the Phantoms, Matt Lipcsak. I was joined by Phantoms head coach and general manager Brad Patterson. Brad, are you going to come over to North Canton and help me build the swing set for my son since we can't go to the park?
Yeah, I'll be right there. I got my own to do in the backyard.
Oh my gosh, it's daunting, isn't it?
Yes.
All right, Phantoms fans, we will catch you next time. We'll see you.
Thanks, man.